This is the Widow Podcast, and I am Karen Sutton, the Widow Coach. I'll be supporting you through the loss of your life partner so you can find a more positive way through your grief. I want to give you hope after loss and to know that when you are ready, you can create a meaningful life for yourself with the help of me, Karen Sutton, and the Widow Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Widow Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again. I wanted to talk to you in this episode about comparison and the impact it can have on us in our grieving journey. I hear about it a lot in my sessions with the ladies in my 12-month program and also the ladies in my membership, but I also read about it a lot in my free Facebook support groups and online because it's huge and it's something we all do. It's something that affects us all in our journey in one way or another. So I thought it would be good just to share a few thoughts, a few ideas with you to maybe help you recognize where you're doing this and hopefully lessen some of that comparison. As we all know, losing a life partner is an indescribable pain. And as widows, we often find ourselves comparing our grief and our journey to others. We also have a tendency to compare our current self to who we were before our loved one passed away. You've heard me say this before. You'll hear me say it 100 times again. Everyone's journey is unique. Everyone's journey is different, and comparing ourselves to others or to our past selves only adds unnecessary pressure and pain to something that is heavy enough. There's enough suffering, and we layer that suffering. And this is what I love to help people unpack in my 12-month program, because we're often not aware that we're doing it per se. It's just become ingrained as a thought process, as a behavior. And we do it over and over again, making ourselves feel inadequate or invalidated. And that's just horrible. For example, one way we might do this is look at others that are on a similar journey. They may have lost a life partner. You may have met them in person. You may see them in a support group of some sort. And you may make an assumption or a judgment on where that person is and how they are doing. And you might deem that that person is much stronger than you, is doing much better than you, is in a better place. Maybe they're a little bit behind you in their journey. Maybe you're 4 years in and maybe they're 2 years in, and you might look at them and think, oh my God, they're doing amazing. What's wrong with me? Why aren't I doing as well as them? What am I doing wrong? Like, I'm not very good at this, and I shouldn't be feeling this right here, right now. There's an element where it's human nature and it's natural. I remember after Simon died, I just wanted to meet other widows. And I had an old colleague whose husband had died, and she became a widow. And I found somebody that still knew her, and I said, oh, can you connect us? I just wanted to meet her. I just wanted to understand where this journey was going to take me. I wanted her to tell me when I would start feeling better, when my life would start falling back into place again. And I went out and I gained that information, and she told me how long it took her and the processes she went through and where she was now. And I made that my timeline. I made that my timeline. I decided that my path was going to go in exactly the same direction, trajectory as hers. Of course it didn't. Of course it didn't. But when it didn't, I felt inadequate. I felt like I was doing it wrong. I felt like why aren't I in the same place that she was by now? And I would use it as a tool almost to put myself down and tell myself that I just wasn't doing well enough. And it's not right and it's not fair, because we all have different circumstances. We all have different experiences. We are different people. Our grief is different. And life is just different for everyone anyway. You know, there's not a step-by-step process. There's not one right way through this. There is just your way. And I think what I love to see in my communities, that power of community, and what I help people do is to share their journeys, but actually say to people, just take what resonates, just take what feels good to you. Don't take it all. Look at other people on their journeys and allow it to help you see what is possible, but might not actually be true for you. And I think that's the key. You know, it can be so much pressure. We were talking in my group the other night about feeling almost that as a widow, in order to find a way through it, you have to do something huge. You have to do something big. And I know this is a real thing that some people, you know, you go out there and you look for inspiring widowers, surviving partners, to draw from their wisdom, to draw from their strength. And you will go out there and you will find them on social media. You will find them on podcasts, and you will find them doing all kinds of brilliant and amazing things. And what happens is you set the bar. You set the bar and you tell yourself that in order to feel that you have found a positive way through this, that you have created meaning in your life, that you have allowed yourself to build something and create something fulfilling and meaningful after the loss of a life partner, you have to get out there and change the world. You have to get out there and stand on stages and set up podcasts and start charities. And it can feel like you almost have to be Wonder Woman in that space. And it's a lot of pressure. And I hear it a lot in my communities. And that's not where you have to go. That is absolutely not where you have to go. We can create beautiful, wonderful, meaningful lives in much quieter ways. What's important is it's meaningful and it's fulfilling to you, and it will look different to everyone. And I think this is what we have to understand, is it's okay to look at others and see what's possible, but not necessarily push ourselves to achieve exactly as they have. It's just not the way this works. So, you know, it's just not helpful to make that comparison about other people's journeys versus yours and make yourself feel inadequate in some way, because you are doing brilliantly, you know, and we have to come back to the here and the now. And I'll share some tips at the end as to how we can be kinder to ourselves once you recognize that maybe we're doing this, and bring ourselves back to the now, ground ourselves a little bit, and notice that voice in our head that may be talking down to us, and change it so we are being our own best friend. Grief has a profound impact on us. We were talking about this in my group this week, And we were talking about the many different ways that grief manifests itself within our lives. And it was such an enlightening conversation because it really, the ways grief shows up, we are often very focused on the emotional side of grief and how we can support ourselves. As you've heard me say before, it's not just emotional. It's way more than that. It's physical, it's spiritual, it's social, it's behavioral. And when we explored all these different areas and how the grief showed up in all those areas for us, it was mind blowing. It was absolutely mind blowing. And we hugely underestimate the impact grief has on us on a day to day basis for a very long time. Now, I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm helping you to understand that it's so important that we take steps to support ourselves in this, because it is a long journey, and we can absolutely reduce our suffering in that time by educating ourselves, noticing what we're doing, and adapting our behaviors. It is so unfair to expect ourselves to be the same person that we were before our person died. We're not, and I know we want to be. I remember again after Simon died saying to my friends, you've probably heard me say this before, I'm not going to allow this to change me in any way, shape or form. Like, I am not going to become a different version of myself. I like who I am. I like the life that I live, and this isn't going to change me. And I held on for dear life to the person that I was. And actually, I caused myself a lot of extra stress and suffering and upset. And it was hard. It was exhausting. It's exhausting enough, let alone trying to cling on to something that doesn't exist anymore. And I had to get to a place of acceptance, surrendering to those changes, inviting them in, and acknowledging that they were a part of my journey. And as much as those changes were inevitable, they weren't all bad. They weren't all bad. And there were a lot of gifts in my journey. There were a lot of learnings. And not in Simon's death, but in the grief. Because we have choices in how we respond to that. And the choices I made taught me a lot about me. And I've grown so much as a person, and I understand myself so much better on a much deeper level. I feel more empowered. I feel wiser. I feel calmer. I feel I have a deeper appreciation for life and love and everything that comes with it. And I don't know if I'd have learnt those things had I not grieved so deeply. And that's not to say that I'm glad Simon died, but I can see that through the process of my grief, there have been some learnings. There has been growth, and I'm grateful for those things. I miss who I was. I still miss the Karen Sutton that was married to Simon Sutton. And, I was a larger than life personality. I loved partying and dancing and staying up all night and having the best time, and just lots of people and lots of noise and lots of music. And after Simon died, those things just didn't sit right anymore. And I wanted them to. And I felt uncomfortable in the changes of not enjoying those things anymore. And the people around me felt uncomfortable in those things. And I'd put myself down a lot. I'd be like, oh, it's changed me. I'm boring and I can't have fun like I used to. And Nobody's going to want to have me around anymore. All these stories that we tell ourselves. But actually, I found moments of joy, of fun, of laughter, of connection in different ways in my life. And I did spend some time comparing myself as a widow to the person that I was as a married mum of two. Um, I felt very much like I couldn't do life in the way that I used to do it. I didn't have the capacity. I wasn't showing up in the same way. I wasn't being the same friend, the same mum, the same daughter. Like all those parts of my life had changed. I wasn't able to complete tasks in the way that I used to be able to. I wasn't making the choices that I used to make. I just wasn't as productive. I wasn't as outgoing. But grief alters us. It impacts our personalities and our priorities, our energy levels, our outlook, our ability to care. Like our intolerance levels often become sky high. It's just we don't have the time. And again, and I hear it a lot in my communities with the ladies that I support, that feeling of, well, I used to be able to do it. I used to be able to carry out that task. I used to be able to work 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. I used to be able to drive 15 hours and be absolutely fine. I used to be able to go out and stay up all night and party the night away. I used to be able to focus on doing the books for my business, and I can't anymore. I used to be a much calmer parent. All of these things, all of these things. And it's very normal if you find yourself in that space of comparing who you were to who you are. It's not comparable. You can't. Yes, we can reflect. We can look back. We can learn, and we can appreciate the moments and the memories. We also have to take time to understand that we are in a completely different place now. Our world has been shattered. So much has changed in such a profound way. How can we compare the now to the then? They're just so far apart. Yes, there will be elements of it that are the same, maybe, but fundamentally, when you lose a life partner, everything changes. Everything changes. And I want to help you see that finding that acceptance and self-compassion in who we are now, in our identities as widows, widowers, surviving partners, it empowers us. And it allows us to embrace who we are now, acknowledging our strengths and our vulnerabilities, because they're all there. They're all there. But please don't compare who you were to who you are now. They are two very different versions of the same person in very different circumstances, having gone through an experience that absolutely shatters you to your core. And we can want to go back. Of course we can. It's one of those secondary losses, that the loss of the person that we used to be. It's something else to process, to think about, to accept, to absorb, and to acknowledge in this world that we now find ourselves in. But find that compassion and that acceptance for who you are right here and now. And there are a few ways in which we can do that. First of all, we've got to recognize when we are doing this comparing, when we are looking at who we were, or maybe we're looking at somebody else, and that comparison starts to come in. Notice when that's happening. And if you find that you are being critical to yourself, maybe talking yourself down, just remember, kind words only. Talk to yourself like you would a best friend. Recognize that you are doing your best, and that is absolutely good enough. So some of the things I think that are important to do that help me on my journey, that help the women in my communities, is to focus on what you have done, not what you haven't done. It's very easy, like I say, to look at our past self or look at other people on a similar journey and think that we're not doing well enough because we haven't done the things that we used to do or the things that others are doing. Notice what you are doing. I've said this before. If you came to my free events, Awakening Hope, you'd have heard me talk about a to-do list. We're all about to-do lists. Let's write a to-do list, a list of all the things that you have done, that you have achieved, that you have accomplished in your journey. There will be so many things. Those things will be small to start with. It may well be going to bed before midnight, having a shower, making a cup of tea, eating an actual meal, going out and socializing, answering an email, dealing with some of the death admin. It's like, let's notice what we're doing. Let's focus on those things and give ourselves that high five, that pat on the back, and kind of go, do you know what? You are doing stuff. You're doing your best, and that's good enough. Let's not worry about what we're not doing. There's always something we're not doing, but there's a lot that you are doing. Think about, who do you want to be? Not who you were, not who somebody else is. Just think about you. Who are you? Who do you want to be? And as I say to the ladies in my communities, it's a big question and you may not know how to answer it. Ask a different question. Who don't you want to be? Because by default, that will give you the answer. I knew from the very beginning who I didn't want to be. I didn't know how I was going to achieve that. I didn't know where I was heading. I didn't know who I was going to become, but I knew who I didn't want to become. And that's what drove me, and focus on that. Get clear on that in your own mind. And don't look back, and don't look at others and use it as a tool to beat yourself up with, to make yourself feel inadequate. One of the best things I think we can do for ourselves is find a supportive, uplifting, and powerful community with others who get it, that shared experience, and understanding. All the time, I have people say to me, like, it was the best thing I ever did, Karen, was join your membership. Remember, people aren't sure. They think, do I really want to be part of a group of widows? Surely that's going to be utterly depressing. It's so uplifting. It's so validating. It helps normalize what you're going through, and it helps you to really notice what you are doing in your journey that is layering your suffering, much like this comparison piece, and adapt and change with the support of like-minded women that are going through something very similar. And as much as all of our journeys are so unique and individual, there are a lot of similarities. There is a lot of crossover, but it's so powerful. It really is. It's so empowering. And I want to help you do that. I want you to know that it's absolutely okay to feel whatever it is that you are feeling in your grief journey. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not being pathetic. You're not being weak, and it's not. There is no right or wrong. There's just your way. And I want to help you find that way so that you can let go of those comparisons and start to notice and embrace your own power on your own unique path, and to help you honor your own individual experiences and healing processes. Because you are amazing. You are doing your best in a really awful, tragic circumstance. And it's hard. There's no break. There's no holiday. There's no weekends off. There's no escaping it. It's there all the time. And every day you are getting up and you are showing up for yourself in the best way that you can. And I want you to recognize that. I want you to see that. And I want you to give yourself a little bit of encouragement within that, rather than thinking you're not showing up in the way that you used to show up, or you're not showing up in the same way that somebody else is showing up. Of course you're not. You're different. And that's okay. And that's okay, because you are absolutely doing your best. If you would like a little bit more support, on the 28th of March, myself and Orla Blackburn, she's a wonderful, wonderful lady. She's a holistic grief guide, and she does a lot sort of with the somatic side of grief, and helping you to release the grief that you are holding on to in your bodies. And she does that with movements and meditation, and it's beautiful. And we are holding a day together where I'm going to be running workshops. All is going to be holding these beautiful, lovely releasing sessions for you. And I would love you to come and join us. It is going to be a beautiful day, a nurturing day, and we are doing it all online because the in-person retreats are not always accessible to everyone. So it's something that you can do in the comfort of your own home, where you will do it with other people from all over the world, all in different stages of their grief journeys. And we're going to come together and we're going to support each other, and you will leave feeling uplifted and calmer, and with a sense of greater understanding around you and your grief, and how you can support yourself on that journey. So I will pop the link in the show notes. It is also on my website. And it really is going to be a fantastic day for you to come and just focus on you and give yourself that little bit of care and attention that is so desperately needed. So Widows Connect, Saturday, the 28th of March. We're running from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. UK time and 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. EST. All sessions are recorded. They're available on replay for 30 days afterwards as well. So it really is going to be a fantastic opportunity for you to just learn how to support yourself in a very nourishing and relaxing, wonderful way. So go check out the link for that. I would love, love, love to see you there. I am sending you lots of love as always. And remember, no comparisons. You're doing amazing. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Widow podcast with me, Karen Sutton. If you would like to be part of a supportive community of people who understand your grief, come and join my free Facebook group, Widowed and Rising. And make sure you tune in to the next episode of the Widow podcast.